Alright, oil and gas board, state oil, gas board, Alabama governing onshore land operation and administrative code. Chapter 414, drilling, table of contents, 01, identification of the wells, 2, 02, the protection freshwater resource, 3, well record 4, drilling directional survey, 05, the abandonment radioactive logging sources, 06, operation involved with the radioactive material, 07, the chemical treating of the fracturing of the well, fracturing wall, 808, reporting wall treatment, well treatment, 809, casing, cementing, and testing process, pressure requirements, 10, pit construction maintenance, 11, recycle and disposal of the fluids, pit closure, 12, drilling mud blowout prevention, 13, 14, plugging and abandonment over the wells, 15, reporting of the well plugging, 16, restoration location, 17, request classified west, temporarily abandoned shut in, 18, abandoned wells, 19, wells used for fresh water, seismic control, 20, core and other exploratory holes to be plugged, 20. Alright, 400-1401, identification of the well, sign shall be posted for the maintain of the legible state with a conspicuous place in the near of the well. Such signs shall be posted before spudding every inch of the shell, and they may remain posted until the well is plugged and abandoned. Location restricted with the shell sign shall include the name of the operative, the permanent number of the well, name of the number, and of the section of the township of the range of the county in which the well is located. Alright, section 400-1402, protection of the freshwater resource for the operator shall conduct for the oil gas operation for the manner shall prevent the pollution of the oil of the freshwater resource for all of the freshwater waters for the present of the portable, probable future value of the domestic, municipal, for the commercial staff of the agricultural purposes with the confinement of the respect of the tribe of the shall be adequately protected with the special precautions shall be taken with the guard against any love of the artisty and water for the tribe for the which they occur with the contaminant of the freshwater with the objectionable with the water oil concept of the gas over the deleterious substances of the such as fresh water. 401-403, well recorded during the drilling and the completing of work over the operation of every permitted well with the owner of the operator contract to drill over the other person reachable for the conduct of the drilling operation will notify the supervisor prior to the performance of the following activities: setting surface casing, running the intermediate production casing with the perforating drill, stemming, testing rule 400-1501, wireline logging, surveying. Of course, such person shall be keep the detail of the crack of the record as well for the reducing the writing of the day-to-day, which shall be accessible with the board and its agents at all times of the obtain the information of the records furnished for the board within 30 days after the completion of such time of the prescribed supervisor. Such information shall include but not limited to showing contract with the day of the ground with the level of the direct floor with the killing and the bushing elevation for the surveyed by the licensed land survey for the total depth of the kickoff point with the depth of the direction of the sidetrack with the bottom hole, the location casing of the liner, record with the cement record with the squeezing cement record with the perforation record with the tubing record, tip of the tap of the end with the plug packer with a well simulation treatment of the record, geomstone test record of all of the wireline logging sample. Core operation said well, but the information shall be submitted with the appropriate form OGB 611 and 8. One copy with electrical, mechanical, radioactive dip meter for the logs, such as the supervised performance of the drilling, completing with the work over the operation shall be submitted with the board within 30 days after the completion. Addition filing with either the blue or black file line log copies, all available digital log data with the log ASC2 standard format with a shall be filed with the board with one copy with all the drill stems of the results shall be submitted along with the form OGB7 within 30 days of the completion, complete with the set with the washed mud log cuttings if applicable with the correctly labeled with identified with the depth that should be filed with the board within 30 days of the time of the completion of any of the wells over the otherwise off of the roof with the supervisor on the course taken with the complete set of the course either whole or last course slabs currently correctly labeled identified with the depth and should be filed with the board within 3 months for the time of the completion of the wells unless otherwise approved by the supervisor for the provide with the operator may obtain with the exemption with the requirement under the submission affidavit certifying that the will store with the maintain with the core with the well action specify the location of the facility provide with the name and the address for the telephone number of the facility where the cores are stored. People provide with the board on the core applying with the request provide with the name and address for the telephone number of the person handling with the request. See with the will provide with the core with the board with the operator shall see with the maintain the storing the site occur. D. The will submit with the core with the board one over the year with the time of the completion of the well with the additionally with the supervisor may allow with the filing of the material with the representative of the core with an interval with the lieu of the filing of the whole or slab core if the supervisor determines of the adequate core coverage of the area for some of the other reason. If the operator requests for the writing all the law with the cutting in the core with the course analysis of the code interval with the formation and the depth as well shall be cut with the confidential period of 6 months over the completion of such well. 400-1404, directional survey. With the approval of the directional survey, may include with the logging, the drilling, measurement of the drilling, and log with the LBT bearing with one copy thereafter to the operative with the supervisor with the written threatened days of the completion of the well, the directional survey shall be run total depth base for the survey, the casing of the kick-off point, wherever the shallow, if unless otherwise approved with the supervisor. However, the directional survey, the total depth is necessarily in the case of the interval between the survey less than 500 feet and such of the inch of the projection of the latest survey shall satisfy with the board requirement of the event with the proposed with the final location produced for the interval with the direction and control of the well is not in accordance with spacing of the other rule of the board approved with the applicable of the reservoir property application shall be made with the obtainment of the approval of the exemption of such rule for such approval shall be guaranteed granted or denied with the discretion of the board after the notice of the hearing of the directional survey shall be run when 1. The well is directional controlled is thereby initially reflected with from the vertical. 2. The well the drill with the measured depth of 6,000 feet or greater. All wells expected with the penetrative of the pore pressure of the gradients greater than 67 pounds per square inch in the 100 feet with a depth of 0.67 psi of the foot, or a well penetrated expected with the penetrated interval for the containment of the hydrogen sulfide surveys to the run within 500 feet with the entry with the hydrogen sulfide bearing formation. 5. The well is drilled with an exemptional location with the directional survey ordered by the board. 400-1405, the abatement of the radioactive logging. So for the supervisor shall be identified immediately after the loss of the radioactive logging source on the well. 2. For the no radioactive source of the logging may be left without with the written consent of the supervisor. 3. When the operator may have the necessary for the radioactive source in the well, but the supervisor must notify of the writing and start with the plan with the abandonment of the procedure with the submitted with the supervisor approval of the plan, which be approved by Alabama, the Department of Public Health and Division of the Radiation Control of the NER agency for the jurisdiction. 4. Wells on the radioactive source of the abandonment may be mechanically equipped to prevent the accidental injection of the mechanical disintegration of the radioactive source. A. Such sources being abandoned at the bottom of the well should be covered with a substantial stream of the colored dye with cement plugged with the top of the whip stick with the other mechanical device approved with the supervisor shall set forth so for the dye shall be set. So too for the alert with the re-entry of the property with the prior with the encountering such shore of the inlet wells wherever the logging surface have been cemented with the place behind casing string with above with the total depth of the palm of the abandonment the tan colored dye with the cement plug with the job to play for the appropriate opposite of the abandonment shore with the whip stop with the other mechanical with the device approved with the provided the place on the top of the plug C and then of the operator found with the after for the extending with a reasonable effort for the cave with the whole for the condition with a not possible addition with the sort of the prescribed in paragraph in A and B with above with the prior with the casing efforts to the so with the abandonment must obtain with the board approval to see if such efforts obtain with approval for the alternate abandonment procedure. D. When logging source must be abandoned with the producing zone with the tan colored dye with the cement plug shall be set with a whip stack with the other mechanical device approved by the supervisor play for the direct with the side track with the list at least 15 feet away from the source. 5. With any will with the radioactive source level with the hole for the trial have the visual warning of the sign when posted and maintain the legible state with the complaint for the place near the well with the sign show that the plug with the tree full with the radiation signal symbol with the radioactive warning units upon permit application of any with the well with the radioactive source with the left of the hole shell with the permanent plaque attached for the top of the casing left in the hole such of the manner with the re-entry that cannot be accomplished without distributing the plaque with the plaque shall serve with a visual warning to any person re-entering the hole with the radioactive source has been abandoned and play with the well with the plaque shall depict with the tree full with the radiation symbol of the radioactive warning shall be with the long-lasting material such as monomal stainless steel with the brass with the marker shall be bear with the following information well the name permanent number server the location name of the operative the source of the material abandoned in the well total well with the depth of which the source of the abandonment of the plug depth plug back depth of the date with the abandonment of the source of the activities of the source warning not to drill below plug depth back. Similarly, the operator desires to re-enter the convert with the recomplete with the rework of the well and in which the radioactive source to the logging and present with the applicant and the operator must have the plan with the operating approved with the supervisor or any other agency with the jurisdiction before the re-entry for the conversion and recompletion of the rework application is granted. 400-1406 with the operation involved with the radioactive material the operator shall be obtained with the approval of the supervisor of the Alabama Department of Public Health, the Division of Radiation Control, and any other agency with the jurisdiction before they introduce the radioactive materials good with the radioactive logging devices into the substrata for the purpose of conducting the tracer or survey with the any other reason. 401-407 the rubbish and the debris. The way shall not be the chemical of the tree with the fracture of the approval of the supervisor of the chain. Each well shall be the tree with the fracture within the sense man with the as well, but not cover the damage of the formation from over the water, encroachment into the soil of the gas bearing formation, the danger of the freshwater bearing strata. Necessary with the precautions shall be taken to prevent the damage of the casing round with the chemical treatment over the corrosion control shall be assumed with the damage for the requirement of chemical treatment with the fracturing with the result of the repairable damage to the well of the oil gas bearing formation of the freshwater bearing strata. The well shall be properly plugged and abandoned. 401-48 report of the well treatment within 30 days after the chemical treating and the fracturing of the well. The report shall be filed with the board and triplicated by the operator with the form OGB6 stating forth in detail the method used for the treating of the well. 401-409 casting, cementing with the testing pressure requirement. The operator shall save to the cement all wells for the sufficient number of the string for the manner of the necessary for the prevent communication between separate hydrocarbon stratas for the assessment of the strata for the provided for the commingling between the hydrocarbon and water bearing strata for the prevent contamination of fresh water bearing strata. C support unconsolidated sediments for the D otherwise provide means for the controlling formation pressure of the fluids. 2. The operator shall install the casing with the meats for the American Petroleum Institute with the standard cement shall with the American Petroleum Institute standard shall be mixed with the water adequate quality not to degrade, setting proper to safety factor for the casing of the program design shall meet with sufficient magnitude for the provide optimal control with the well drilling and ensuring safe operational life of the well with the surface of the casing with the minimum amount of the surface of the fishing intermediate for the casing with be set with the below the ground levels of the cementing requirements. The test pressure requirements shall be determined in the table of 1. However, the operator does not set for his first and intermediate of the casing below the base of the underground source of the drinking water containing fluids over the less than 10,000 milligrams per liter. The total solved solids of the operator may not be allowed to dispose of the fluids in the well. See Rule 401-411, 1 relating to the disposal of the pit fluids and show of the table. The supervisor may also specify the surface of the first intermediate with the casing requirements for the other than set forth in Table 1. Insert the requirements are needed to provide with increase for the protection of the freshwater resources as your proposed true depth, vertical depth minimum casing requirements, cement required surface test pressure and PSI. Intermediate casing and intermediate protect for the casing should be determined with the required with the abnormal pressure mud wave the sediment and the other well condition the quantity of the cement with the decision to cover the isolate with the hydrocarbons over the isolate with the abnormal pressure interval with normal pressure intervals shall be used. If the liner is used with the intermediate string with the cement shall be tested for the fluid entry for the pressure for the test of the determined whether the skill between the liner top of the next larger casing string with the shall been achieved. The test shall be recorded with the drill or slot with the surface of the liner used with all of the production casing shall be extended with the surface of the commencement of the void with the surface casing beyond with the production casing. The production casing should be set with the before the completing of the well production shall be expanded with the manner necessary with the cover isolate all zones contained with the hydrocarbon to calculate with the volume of the minutes sufficient to file with the annular space with at least 500 feet with above with the top of the uppermost hydrocarbon zone with the used with the liner is in use for the production casing. Testing and sale may be between the liner top of the next with the larger string which shall be constructed as in the case of the intermediate liners. The supervisor shall approve of the alternative casing with the program written justification by operator. See the indication of the inadequate primary of the expanding of the charge of the loss return of the cement chain over the mechanical failure of the equipment that charge for the intermediate with the production casing string with the operator shall value with the accuracy of the cementing operation pressure testing with the casing shoe with the running of the cement bound log with the cement evaluation tool log. Running a temperature survey with a combination layer over the bag before continuing operation event with the indication of inadequate cementing of the operator shall be cement. Take other actions approved with the supervisor of the operator shall verify the adequacy of the remedial cementing operations as described above. 4. Pressure testing. The operator shall give with the notice of the supervisor the prior with the pressure testing of the primary cementing with the surface of the casing with the intermediate with the protection for the casing with the drilling should not be resumed until the last time lapse of 12 hours under the pressure cement with the contributed under the pressure one or more of the float valve with the employed with the charge being shown with the holding the cement in the place where other means of holding pressure with the U with the after cementing with the prior with the drilling with the hole with the surface of the casing with the intermediate with the protect of the casing shall be the pressure test is set forth on table 1 above. All pressure tests shall be to hold for the 30 minutes with the during the test period with the pressure declines more than 10% of the initial test pressure with such corrective measures shall be taken to ensure with the casing. Ensuring it sets over the cemented it will hold the test pressure for the 30 minutes without dropping more than 10%. Part D. Upon conclusion of the drilling of the well with the private acting with the either intermittent or other protective or production casing strip with the strip of the casing with the company retap with the ground with the rules 400-14092A with the order of the verify with the integrity of the casing strip with the requirement that will not apply with the well permitted with the drill with the cold depth of the less 6,000 feet with no problem with the encounter with the drilling such for the well with the required with the retail with the verify with the mechanical integrity of the strip of the casing string. See, after the primary cementing with the production case for the drilling with the not resume until with less than 12 hours with an under the pressure cement with the conserve with the under the pressure 1 over the more flow valve with the flow with it should be holding the cement in place while other means with the holding the pressure you with the acid cementing power with the drilling with the plug with the production casing should be the pressure tested and pressure in the pounds per square inch calculated multiplied by the vertical depth of the producing with the string with the 2/10 with any of the pressure with the required with the per board of serve for supervisors. All pressures are to be held with the 30 minutes of the maximum test pressure required with not exceed 15,000 psi. If during the test period pressure declines more than 10% of the initial test pressure for the corrective measures should be taken in the initial with the casing string as set with the cemented will hold for the test pressure for the 30 minutes without a drop of more than 10%. In the event of the prolonged drill pipe of the rotation case with the string with the surface extend with the operation of the milling, fishing with the jarring with the washing over the walk over. Other operators could have damaged with the casing, so for the casing string with the be tested with it is required with the supervisor value with the logging technique with the caliper, the casing with the inspection log every 30 days. The evaluation result of the submitted with the supervisor for the determination of the integrity of the casing continues so for the drilling with the work over the operation over the production life of the well with the integrity of the casing as well. To at a potentially unsafe level, the remedial operation should be conducted with the plan approved with the supervisor prior with the continuing operation. 5. Record testing. Pressure of the prior with the documentation pressure tests include the beginning of the ending with the pressure of the duration. Each of the tests shall be recorded for the daily drilling report. Unless witnessed by an agent of the board, all pressure tests, retests shall be documented with properly with a calibrated continuous pressure recorded with the other pressure reporting device acceptable. The supervisor with the representative of the operator shall sign with the pressure test record file with the completion of each of the pressure test. The operator shall maintain all pressure test records and all the well site with the drilling operations shall the records shall be made available for re-inspection. Over the request, the operator shall maintain all of the pressure test records for the minimum of 3 years after the date the pressure test was conducted. 6. For the reporting test of pressure, the operator shall report the pressure test on Form OGB7. 400-140-10. And pit construction of the main, the operator shall obtain with approval with the supervisor prior with the construction any of the pit to be in conjunction with the drilling completion of the work over the operation. All pits utilized with the containment of the fluids during the drilling with the completion work over the operation shall be constructed with the maintained to prevent the pollution of the surface of the groundwater through a pit shall be constructed with the maintained to the containment of the fluids within the pit and no fluid should be discharged from the pit except for the appropriate permits of the regulation of the fluid levels of the pit should be kept at least 2 feet below top of the pit wall. The diagram of the pit should be constructed with the maintained so with no surface water over the runoff of the blend of the pit. 5. The operator shall construct with the pit so with the bottom of the pit above the seasonal high water table with the pit with the construction of the band with the supervisor shall require with the pit line with the material with incapable of the retaining the pit fluids of the other action of the taking and ensure protection of the groundwater operators shall prevent the material that are not except the Resource Conservation Recovery Act from entering the pit during the drilling and the completion of work over the production operation. 7. Prior to utilizing such pit with the pit, the unsurface the operator shall make the determination of the pit with the construction of the man with the prevent the pollution surface of the ground with the operator shall keep the record with the determination provided with a copy to say with the determination from the board upon the request of the supervisor. If requested by the supervisor, the operator may require the available the well the location review the determination as to whether or not the pit is in compliance with this rule. 400-140-11. Recycle the disposal of the pit fluids and pit closure for the recycle the disposal of the pit fluids after the well with the drill with the complete with the work over all of the fluids recover the slurry with the remains of the pit show for the suckle with the disposal and corners with the rules within 30 days of the completion unless the others are approved. The supervisor may recover the pines for the aggravated with the remove the recovered slurry with the prior subsurface of the disposal of the pit fluid during the surface of the casing, the first intermediate of the casing production, casual and analysis for the oil that is present of the pit with the skim immediately after the drilling of the operation. See if it is recycled with the disposed in accordance with the appropriate permit of the regulation. Pit fluids with the recovered slurry with the transported off the location except with the disposal of the proof of the well within the material that should be disposed of the lawful approved of the disposal facility or recycled or disposed of in accordance with appropriate permit and regulations. The following procedure will be implemented regarding with the subsurface disposal of the pit fluids down with the surface of the casing, first intermediate casing production, casing and analysis. The producing ability applicable for the subsurface disposal into the well with the location of the proof of the well. The approval must be obtained with the supervisor prior to implementing subsurface disposal of the operation. 2. Pressure testing subsurface disposal of the pit fluid should be conducted with recorded in accordance with the applicable requirements of Rule 400-14094 relating to the pressure testing, Rule 400-14010-5 relating to record test pressure. 3. During disposal operation, injection pressure for the 90% of the mechanical integrity for the test pressure for the casing of the pressure relief of the valve of the set with the authorized maximum. The disposal pressure should be the install of the verification pressure testing the relief valve that may be recovered from the supervisor. 4. As for the first intermediate, the casing is not set with the below the base for the underground source for the drinking water with the contained fluids less than 10,000 milligrams per liter. The dissolved fluids as well for the be used for the subsurface as well for the pit fluids. In addition, section 1B1, 1B2, 1B3, and 1B4 for the following may apply with the operator with the shell submitted with the schematic that's showing the downhole for the construction, such well for the appropriate approximate location of the construction hole for the known water well for the core oils and the gas well with a 1/4 mile radius. 2. For the operator shall submit with the affidavit certifying with the disposal of the fluids contained with the material for the example of the resource for the conservation recovery act for the chloride concentration. The disposal fluid does not exceed 2,000 parts per million, and the pH of the disposal fluid range from 6 to 9 in standard units. Alternate method may be used if approved by the supervisor. 2. For the plate closure for the 90 days after the well for the drill for the complete with the work over all of the pit should properly be filled with the completed compacted unless otherwise approved by the supervisor. Pit shall be backfilled with the earth and compacted for the satisfaction with the supervisor after all of the fluids recovery slurry and such person that pit shall be disposed of the supervisor may permit with the operator's leave of the pit units of the landowner surface owner and request the written statement to the board or the pit be left open. The written statement shall include the intended use for the pit. Alright, 401-412, the drilling mode. The drilling operation, which of the mode is used for the operator should continuously maintain the drilling fluid in the hole with the top of the bottom sufficient way for the control of the aim of the pressure encounter provided, however, the operator may other appropriate method for the control of the pressure with which for the encounter without use of the drilling fluids upon the approval of the supervisor. 41413 blowout prevention. Adequate blowout preventers with high pressure fitting for the keeping the wall under the control shall be the asset for the properly anchored for the cemented casing of the string of the blowout preventer for the must be installed and tested for the corners for this rule for the result of the test should be recorded with the daily operation report maintained as well with the site with the upon request of the test record should be made available to the supervisor after the setting cement surface casing with a ram type of the blowout preventer with one equipped with the blind rams and the other with pipe ram for the annual blowout preventers involved with the manifold with the circulating drilling fluid shall be installed with the test prior to the resuming drilling operations. All work over the operation shall include the installation testing ram type blowout preventers, one with equipped with the line rams, one with a pipe ram with a valve with a manifold of circulating fluids. 3. At the time of the installation flowing aim with the repair with a modification blowout preventer system with an annular type of the blowout preventer should be tested with 1,000 pounds per square with the ram type blowout with the preventer valve with the manifold should be tested at 250 psi with 90% of the rate of the working pressure E of the wellhead of the blowout preventer, whichever is less. 4. During drilling and completion operation for the ram type blowout preventer should be functionally tested for the closing of the drill out pipe once every 7 years for the once every 7 days. An independently powered accumulator for the accumulators of the pump shall maintain a pressure capacity of the reserve. All times are provided for the repeated operation hydraulic preventers. A fully tested should be conducted at 500 feet prior to the drilling with the anticipated production of the zone. The zone should be reasonably expected to contain hydrogens over the abnormal pressure of the test may be conducted using the test plug with the testing of the record with the term if required by the supervisor. Any age of the line request that the blowout preventers tested in time during operation. Supervisor may approve of the modification blowout with the preventer equipment upon request of the justification with the operator. Supervisor may reduce the operator to amount of the return with the trip tank with the other device during the tripping operation preventing gas kicks. 401-414 plug-in abandonment over the wells. Aim with a non-protected well should be plugged within 30 days of the completion and left with the well with the wells classified as temporarily abandoned with the trip and the person Rule 401-417 aim with the productive well that does not produce within 6 months of any of the class 2 injection underground reservoir storage well. The ceased operation 6 months should be plugged within 30 days as well with the ship that has been classified as temporarily abandoned shut in the purpose of 401-417 before any work is commenced and plug abandonment any with the well drill search oil gas utilized with the class 2 injection well with the utilized with the underground reservoir storage well. Operator shall provide the supervisor with proposed method and procedure for the plug and abandon such well for such method should the procedure required for the written supervisor office the supervisor may require the well records including logs be available. Determine the depth of the length so the plugs are adequate. Operation plug with the abandonment over the well should not be begin until the approval procedures have been obtained from the supervisor unless otherwise allowed with the supervisor for the operation will notify the supervisor at least 24 hours prior to the commencement of the plugging operation for the sale of the operator witness among the agent of the board of cementing with all the plugs of the American Petroleum Institute damage open mixed with the water inadequate with the adequate quality so that it is not to degrade the setting property with unless special over the otherwise supervisor operator shall comply with the following requirements applied with all the wells drilled in search for the oil and gas unutilized with the class 2 injection wells underground reservoir storage wells. 1. Cementing plugging shall be played for the cross each for the hydrocarbon abnormally pressure for the injection zone with the permanent type of the bridging bow shall be played for the top of each for the hydrocarbon bearing zone and with the injection zone with either for the event with a cement plug at least 200 feet in the length shall be placed immediately above the uppermost hydrocarbon bearing or injection zone. 2. Within the base of the fresh washer penetrated cement plug at least 200 feet in the length that shall be placed at least 50 feet below the surface extend at least 150 feet above the fresh water. Cement plug will cover the casing of the borehole for the annulus for the fresh water is not adequately protected by cement casing or cement. Alright, cementing a plug less than 200 feet within the length shall be placed at least 50 feet above the extent of at least 150 feet above the surface of the casing of the shoe with the cement plug with the required for the annulus base adjacent with the pay of surfacing casing the need to provide for the increase of the protection of the fresh water. 4. Cemented plug at least 25 feet within the length should be placed within the inside of a small stream with the casing within an annulus space near the surface of the ground, and each hole with the casing of the surface of the manner is not to interfere with the surface cultivation. Steel plate at least 1/4 inch thick shall be welded within the casing stub. The supervisor may verification of the plug and tagging pressure testing. The interval between plugs should be filled with the improved fluid. Other plugging method procedures may be required by the supervisor. 8. Restoration location should be done in accordance with the rule 401-416. 401-415. Reporting of the well. Plugging the reporting in 30 days after the plugging any of the well. The operator shall form the OGB 11. Reporting of the well. Plugging the supervisor setting forth the detailed method of the plugging such well with the schematic shown with the downhole for construction of the well, including the depth of the install, length of the plugs, and shall accompany the form OGB 11. 401-416. Restoration location. Location for the abandonment of the all material, the debris, for the equipment, the drill, with the pipe, the casing, with the tape, tubing treated for the separator of the tanks out of the production process for the injection plant with above ground with the pipeline set of equipment and material that shall be removed from the location over the waste of the material, including petroleum contaminated soil, should be removed at the location disposed within the lawful approved facility or recycled and disposed of in accordance with the proper appropriate permanent regulation provided. If the petroleum contaminated soil may be approved for the supervisor on site with remediation, all waste being removed from the location should comply with the requirements of rule 401-903. Transportation waste associated with oil gas operation adequate measures for the shall be taken and stable level the location side of the fence of the other erosion preventive measures shall be used to minimize erosion unless otherwise approved by the supervisor in any event the location should be restored within 90 days of the manner approved by the supervisor. All water supply drill in connection with the operation shall be properly plugged when abandoned unless future utilization of such well is desired by the landowner, in which case the operator must obtain written consent for the landowner to leave the well open. A copy such of the request must be filled with the supervisor. Alright, 401-417. Request to classify the well as temporarily abandoned. Temporary abandoned staff of the operator must request that it should be placed in the temporary abandoned staff by submitting the written request of the supervisor described in future utility of the well to classify the temporary abandoned well as showing as well as future utility approved of the request of the supervisor of the well will be played for the temporary abandoned staff of the period but not more than 1 year. The operator may submit the subsequent request of the supervisor period prior to ending such period within order for the extent of the temporary abandonment of the status for the additional period of the time more than 1 year. Such request for an extension for the justified in writing, including a statement when the well is scheduled to be utilized upon approval of the request of the supervisor of the temporarily abandoned status will extend the period of not more than 1 year. Thereafter, the may be the board after the notice hearing and extend therefore the temporarily abandoned status for the well. The supervisor board may require for the operator temporarily partially plug the well to verify the mechanical integrity of the casing of the well to implement an monitoring program. Approving the request is classified in temporary and abandoned well location should be maintained in accordance with the Rule 401-401 integrate relating to the identification of the wells and Rule 401-610 leading site maintenance and additional safeguard requirements may be imposed for the operator by the supervisor and the board. Alright, shut-in status. Operator may request that the well be placed in shut-in status, submit and written with the statement the supervisor's statement of the well is capable of producing hydrocarbons must remain shut until the connects with the gathering system, pipeline, processing facility, or for some other reason the request for the classify the well as a shut-in will not consider the official task to resolve the habit and receive of the board with the form OGB 9 with the first production retest of the report shall request the submitted with the writing of the supervisor stating the well is shut-in. And the date of the production is expected to commence upon approval of the supervisor of the well will be placed with the shut-in status for the period of not more than 1 year, but the operator must submit the subsequent request supervisor prior to the end of each such period in order to extend the shut-in status for the additional period of time for not more than 1 year. Such requests for the extension must be required or described paragraph that have then toward place with the well and with the production expected to commence, and upon the approval of the supervisor shut-in staff will be expected for the period of not more than 1 year. Thereafter, the board, after notice hearing with extended Furthermore, in such shut-in status of the well, the supervisor of the board may require the operator to temporarily partially plug the well, verify the mechanical integrity of the casing in the well with the implement the miring system before the approval of the request of classifying well as shutting. The well location shall be maintained in accordance with Rule 400-1401 relating to the identification of the wells, Rule 400-1610 relating to site maintenance. Additional safeguards requirements may be imposed by the operator by supervisor of the board. Alright, 400-148 abandoned wells. Wells considered abandoned and has not been used in 6 consecutive months and has not been classified temporarily abandoned or shut in pursuant with the Rule 400-1-417 cannot be operated whether because it was drilled in a dry hole or ceased to produce. The operations have not been conducted thereon and for some other reason. Alright, 400-1-419 wells used for freshwater well. When a well is to be used for the plug may be safely be used for the freshwater well, such for the utilizations of the surface owner well need not to be filled with required sealing plugs such below freshwater provided by the surface owner and demonstrate for the supervisor for the well is being utilized with the freshwater well that agrees to take full responsibility. Well Act requires $2,000 surety bond acceptable to the board and file with the surety bond with a board form on OGB3. Supervisor may later relieve the bond proper demonstration that the well is being utilized as a freshwater well. Alright, 400-1-420 seismic core and other exploratory holes to be plugged. Before any other hole is abandoned which is drilled for the seismic core or other exploratory purpose, it shall be the duty of the owner to drill any such hole with the plug the same in such a manner properly protect all freshwater bearing strata. Alright, and that was drilling.